Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
A 2-1 pitch. And a drive in the air to deep right field. That ball headed toward the wall. That ball is out of here. Out of here. A game-winning grand slam home run off the bat of Robin Ventura.
Hey. And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run. Mike Piazza, and the Mets lead 3-2.
High fly ball to left. Back at the wall, and the captain's going deep to the wall.
Turner drives one to center, chasing Nimmo back to the warning track right at the fence. He made the catch! Oh, wow! The catch of the year for Brandon Nimmo! He took a home run away from Justin Turner. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Episode 21, the Say Hello podcast. Welcome. My name is Casey Lynn. I am joined by my co-host, Bill Pulsifer. Bill Pulsifer. Can't believe it's been a whirlwind week. We'll get into that, Bill. Bill Pulsifer, former Met and former Major League Baseball player, friend, father, son, all the above. Great person. You're welcome. I had to make up for butchering your name out of nowhere.
That's all right.
This is episode 21, Bill. It's your number with the Mets. It's a special anniversary or milestone, if you will, for our podcast. 21 being your uniform number. Pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. 21 is the magic number.
Absolutely. Blackjack. Of course, Stephen White behind the scenes, our producer. Check out his podcast at Cold Popcast. And, of course, this episode is brought to you by roots-recordings.com. There has been a lot of movement since episode 20 in Metsland from last week. And there has been a lot of movement in my personal life that has a Met connection, very much so. So I am going to go right into that, actually. Because I'd be remiss if I didn't start off the podcast with what has happened in my personal life, which was over the weekend. Bill does know about it. Bill actually was a supporter, gave me some good advice. And after we talk about it, you'll see why his advice was good. And, we went through with it. And, we're going to start with that. So how's that sound, Bill?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
All right. I'm just going to read the tweet. I printed it out. I think I made a tweet or on X. I tweeted out after what transpired, and I think it's just best to read it. I don't know how many people listening or watching, of course, on Say Hello Media on YouTube. If you're watching, please subscribe. Or if you're listening, wherever you get your podcast platforms, give us a follow, like, comment. We respond ASAP. I think it was best, Bill. I did print it out just to read. You've seen it. You've commented on it. I think it's best if I just read it instead of just paraphrasing. So I'm going to go for it. I'm just going to read it straight up. So my head will be down as I read. It starts like this, and I wrote this the day that I drove to Tampa. Here we go. If you're up to reading a long story, it's worth it. As many of you know, I lost my best friend, my baby, my all, Shay, in November. She was more than a dog. She was my daughter. She was my why. I loved her, and I always will. I miss her every day, and I continue the morning cry and feel the pain, and I wish it on nobody. As I turn the page. Most people said it would help to think about getting another dog, as Shay wouldn't want me to suffer. Hint, hint, Bill Pulsifer was one of those friends that said that. I said, no way. Then serendipity happened. almost about a month ago, I was scrolling on social media and I came across an Instagram story from Haley Alonso, wife of Pete Alonso. As if you're listening, you probably know who the hell Pete Alonso is. Best power hitter in baseball and fan favorite of the New York Mets. That's not in the story. I'm just ad-libbing there. Who, Pete and Haley, saved a black lab from a kill shelter in Texas. Lucy, a 2-year-old lab, was to be killed on Christmas Eve. However, Haley and Pete Alonso saved her life and took her in and were fostering her until they found a forever home for Lucy. I followed the instructions by Haley and sent an email. Fast forward, she texted me a few days later. After weeks of talking and Pete and Haley sending me videos and pictures of Lucy, and then finally multiple phone calls with Pete Alonso, who already fell in love with Lucy as she's such a sweet puppy, Pete Alonso gave me the okay to adopt Lucy and give her the forever home that she needs. I did a lot of talking to friends and family and to Shay, who many think somehow made all of this possible, if you believe in that stuff. Pete was the one who used the word serendipity, and I believe he's right. Lucy is with me now, and she will be filled with love and care for the rest of her life. I made a promise to Pete and to myself. Uncle Pete, he's okay with that name, by the way, I asked him, will continue to be filled in on Lucy every day, and we will have play dates with the Alonso's 2 dogs. They have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old little guys, and Lucy when they're in Florida. I was never looking for a dog. If I wasn't scrolling at that exact second, none of this would have happened. Lucy checks all the boxes. A rescue dog, a lab, sweet as hell. This has nothing to do with Pete, other than Haley and him were the driving force propelling this, and all of us are so grateful we found each other. I made a promise to Pete that Lucy will be in the best hands possible. I'm a dog lover. I miss Shay every second, and I will continue to. However, life goes on, and as mentioned before, she wouldn't want me to suffer anymore. Everything happens for a reason. Everything. Sometimes it's hard to find and understand, but the reason happens, and it happens for a reason. Haley and Pete could not have been any nicer during the process, and we will always have this relationship and connection. Pete signed and gave me a game-used home run derby bat, which was under what I found out later, the Gregory Sif collection, ad-libbing. We will be hanging out shortly, and Lucy just has that effect. She's amazing. Haley and Pete are also amazing. I am so grateful now to be able to call them friends. Welcome to the family, Lucy. That's the tweet that I sent out. That's the best way I to just read it. Yeah, your thoughts, Bill? I mean, it's been a whirlwind couple of days for me.
Well, as a family, our family as well that does fosters and have adopted fosters and saved dogs. I think that's just a tremendous, tremendous story. Irregardless, and I heard that that's not a word, but I'm going to use it anyway, of it being Pete and Haley,
Yeah.
The Alonsos. But obviously for you and for the people that are listening and watching our podcast, that's just one of the coolest stories that you could ever imagine, let alone make up or try to make a movie script. But I'm so happy that you did take some of the advice that I was given and some other people were giving. As somebody that's lost 4 dogs in my quote unquote grown life over time, I'm 50 now, so it's been a long time. I have 4 dogs downstairs right now, and 3 of them are rescue dogs, and one of them is we rescued from another family that they had to give the dog up. So I think it's a tremendous story, and I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy for Lucy, and I'm happy that you can spark a relationship with your favorite ball player.
Yeah, as I said and you said as well, it's wild and you couldn't make it up, and that's how I started off the story when reading. I could not make this up if I tried. It is wild, exciting, and a mix of emotions all at once. Like I said, I drove to Tampa with my father. We met with Pete and Haley with their 2 dogs and Lucy, and they could not be better human beings. In a world where there's just shit everywhere, Like, people need to understand, whether you're a baseball fan, and I'm sure you are if you're listening or watching us or both. We need more people like Pete and Hallie Alonso. They are saints. Um, they're actually, most people don't know this. I asked Pete uh, just the backstory of Lucy, and we don't have to get into that. She was abused as and then left, to a kill shelter that is one of the highest rating for kills of any shelter in America. And she was set to be killed Christmas Eve. And I asked, how'd you guys even get Lucy, a woman who I don't know, literally drove from Texas, it was in Dallas, to Tampa, where they live. Drove drove the dog. I mean, everybody was looking out for Lucy. Um, I asked Hallie how she found Lucy, and she was on Facebook looking at shelters around the country. Like, who does that to save dogs?
My wife does.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, your wife, Hallie. I mean, you saints,
I tell
dog
you what,
lovers.
it makes me like them. And Pete is a ball player. I don't know his wife obviously at all. She's not in the spotlight, and I'm sure she likes it that way. But it makes me like them as people even more than my being a fan of Pete. It just makes it that much cooler to know that we have something in common. Other than just we were baseball players or are baseball players, and that our love for dogs and trying to help out the less fortunate dogs that are left behind. And a lot of times I always feel this, man, I'd rather have dogs than people, because it goes to what you say. We need more people like the Alonsos, and maybe that could start to even out a little bit more. But that's tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, they saved Lucy's life, and I have Lucy here now, and she is a love bug, just like Pete said. 2 years old, a lot of energy, but I run her, I walk her. I mean, I've walked her, I've walked myself more than I have in the last 5 months in 2 days. Like, I'm getting in shape because I'm forced to. I'm taking care of a 2-year-old here.
Right.
As for Hallie, she's adorable. She's a great girl. Pete's a lucky man, and Hallie's a lucky girl. They're perfect for each other.
Sounds like it.
They are just amazing people. Pete did not have to give me a gift of his home run derby bat that was used in 2023. It was such a great gift. He signed everything for me that I didn't want to take advantage of the situation, and I waited to the end. But he couldn't be more gracious. I had him sign some baseballs for some friends, personalized to myself and to them. He was, I mean, I was talking to Steve, our producer, before we went on the air, and I wrote that tweet, and you know how toxic X and Twitter is, and the cesspool that it is, and people just love to hate on there. I have over, I think, 100,000 views on that tweet, and a lot of replies. And if you guys listening want to check it out, KCJ _516, it's pinned now. There wasn't one person, Bill, one, that had any negative shit to say. One. It was 100% all positive for this. Braves fans, Philly fans, they're like, you know what? I didn't like Pete, and I don't know how people couldn't like Pete before. I think,
because of the jersey. I mean,
right, exactly. But now, I mean, not one person had a bad thing. Like, how could you? Rescue dogs, saving a sweet dog. I just lost my dog, and I'm in tears every night. And and then the Met connection. Shea is named Shea after Shea Stadium. I am a huge Met fan. Pete Alonso is my favorite player. He doesn't know that. I played it cool. I mean, I basically had to pass every test. Pete was not going to give away Lucy to just anybody. Pete told me if he didn't play baseball for a living, he would have kept Lucy. And I believe him. But he lives in New York during the season, and Lucy needs water. She needs to run on grass, and it's just concrete and tall buildings where they are. So, and Hallie takes care of their dogs.
That's a lot.
But he would have kept Lucy. And if you ever get to meet Lucy, and everybody who has, you would see why. Total love bug. The story's wild. You couldn't make it up. And I just feel internally grateful for all of this. And like I said in the tweet, and we'll move on to Met Talk, even though this is Met Talk, it's crazy. I never believed in this, but I do think Shea, my dog who passed in November, somehow, some way, wherever she might be, made this happen. I don't believe in that stuff, but I'm starting to because it all just flowed perfectly. Like I said, if I wasn't scrolling, and Pete Alonso. I mean, I told Haley and Pete, Shea watched the most Met games out of any dog in the history of dogs, in the last 10 years because I watched every game and Shea was right next to me. So I don't know if you believe in that stuff, but I am starting to.
Well, I definitely think when things like this happen, if you don't believe it definitely make you question your beliefs a little bit. And it's very
Good point.
special. And like we said, everything does happen for a reason. And this was the reason that Shea maybe had to pass, is for you to be able to get a new great buddy. I mean, look, the unfortunate thing about dogs is they don't live as long as humans. And it's something that we as dog lovers have to try to accept. But like I told you when Shea first passed away,
you did.
Our way of trying to mourn and to get on with it is to save another dog's life, and it's exactly what you and the Alonsos did, and it's a tremendous story.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. You were the first person that said, and I didn't want to hear it. I was mourning, I was mad, I was angry, just like anyone else would be. But it took some time, and here we are. But yeah, you're right. It's already helped as much in the 2-3 days that I've had Lucy. I'm smiling more.
Right.
I'm still missing Shea, but
yep.
I have something now that I rescued a dog, like you just said, which is everybody should do it, and I have a reason now to not be as devastated as I was. I got to take care of Lucy.
Absolutely. Yep.
So wild shit.
I love
the most, and to put a bow on this before we talk about a couple signings in the last week, the most surreal shit out of all of this, and I obviously Pete, and he's a straight, normal dude. He just happens to be the best power hitter in baseball, and it's his walk year, and no Met fan wants to lose him. But for me, I got to separate Lucy, and I already have, and the whole that, and I'm texting and talking on the phone with my favorite baseball player, like kind of like you and Doc, It's surreal.
Exactly.
And I have separated it. Pete never would have allowed Lucy to come into my home if he didn't think I was a cool, normal guy who wasn't just a Met fan. It's not like that. I'm obviously I passed all the tests, but for me, it's like sometimes you take a step back, and I'm sure you've done it maybe with Doc and some other players, or like Pete Alonso, just texted me at 10 a.m. today. It's So I separate the two. Lucy is number one, of course, but the story with Pete and Haley and all how it happened, I could write a book.
Great shit, man. Great shit.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Every time when I get a text from Doc or we text with each other, you got to kind of shake yourself a little bit and realize, holy shit. But they're people too, and the fact that what he and his wife did, and I'm sure this won't be the last time they do something like this and foster a dog. It lets you know that he's a person, not just the guy you see on TV smashing home runs all over the place.
God,
he's a person with a heart.
Yeah, they are saints, and they're gonna. Haley actually put on her Instagram thanking me, talking about me, and Lucy has found a forever home, and she linked the tweet that I just read to everybody, to her 30,000 followers, and said she put in the hyperlink. She changed it to grab a tissue, because in the replies, I had over 100 people. If you people read them again, KCJ, and it's also retweeted on Shay_hello. People were crying. People were saying, man and faith has been restored in a society that's gone to shit after reading a story like this.
Absolutely, they're still good out there.
Yeah. So thank you, Haley, for posting that. It means a lot to me. And all this is just surreal, and it's all good stuff. And we need a lot more good in the world. So thank you for your advice. And everybody who is listening and watching, you will be if you follow along on Shay Hello Media on Instagram, or Shay_hello on X, or KCJ_516 on Twitter X. Lucy's everywhere, so if you want to keep up with Lucy, that's how. And of course, this podcast as well. So let's move on. Some other Met talk. 2 signings in the last week. and we need to talk about it. And we did talk about one of the signings last episode, episode 20, Sean Manaea, left-handed pitcher. You remember, to just give everybody who might not remember, you wanted Ryu, the lefty who was on the Blue Jays, and I was okay with either or. I mean, we know that the Mets were going for Snell and Montgomery, and they were going to sign to a 1-year, 2-year contract. But and we were right, and the Mets chose Manaea.
Yep.
And apparently he's been work. Yeah, 30 years old, left-hander. He's going to be probably the number 4. I mean, he's been working.
Run higher in earned run average.
Yeah, no, his career ERA is like 4.10. It's not horrible,
Yeah.
But last year, he gained 2 miles an hour on his fastball. He's been changing up, working with the different, whoever he's working with. He had a great month of September for the Giants, above 500 for his career, and it was a 2-year deal, $28 million, an opt-out after 24, so $14 million. I hate that, and I'll get your thoughts, because the Mets, I mean, they did what they had to do to get him. If Manaea has a great year, he's opting out. So thank you for a great year. Bye. Yeah. Or if he sucks, okay, you're back, because you're not going to opt out. I hate that, but I get you have to get players and give them what they want. So I wanted to get your take. I know you wanted Ryu. Right. I either or, but they want Manaea.
Yeah, I like Ryu just simply on longer track record. Obviously a little bit older, so you are signing a little bit more youth with Manaea. And I do think with the year out option, that was probably big for him, because I'm sure at 31 years old, turning 32, he still believes that there's going to be a big bounce back resurgence, because he was kind of in a downtrend a little bit for a few years after I'm not going to say meteoric rise, but a nice rise to being a prominent pitcher with the A's.
Through a no-hitter against the Red Sox.
And had a little bit of a downturn. And I think that at 31, he probably feels like, I want to sign this deal right. I need to know where I'm playing. I'd like to have the option of 2 years, and the $28 million sounds great. But if I do have a really, really good year and say win 12, 15, 16, 17 games, I know that's a lot in this day and age in baseball, but he probably feels like there might be even more money out there, because he saw the types of money that's being thrown around. And I'm sure as a competitor that he is, he sees himself as having the ability to do very, very well and to get even more money. I've watched him throw over the years. One thing I'm hoping he's doing with he's doing these changes is working on his flexibility. He's always looked a little bit stiff to me. And I think that even though he's gained a little bit of velocity, I think it's been a little fluctuating from what I've seen, between the 91 and the 94 range, and never really consistently at 94. I think with flexibility, maybe there's maybe even 95s and 96s in there with a little bit of added flexibility in his body. So obviously, as a Mets fan, optimistic that he's going to have he had a 4.4 last year. Let's hope for a 3.4 this year, and that would be tremendous.
Yeah. I don't mind it. We knew what we were getting after they didn't get Yamamoto. Yep. If you look at it right now, it's only January. It doesn't mean they're done. There's talk about maybe the Mets trading for another guy. You can never have enough pitching. But their starting rotation as constructed in January, early, and there's still a crap load of free agents left. But I think they're done there. They might not be. Your number 1, your ace is Senga. Let's say Quintana's your 2. Manaea's your 3. Severino's your 4. And then Hauser, who they traded for, with Tyrone Taylor, who's going to be on the roster as like a 4th outfielder. Hauser is your 5, but he's going to compete. Hauser can be moved to the bullpen. He was on the Brewers last year. He pitches out of the bullpen. He can start, give innings.
So that's leaving our guy Lucchesi out in the cold.
But I knew you're right. So, but Hauser is not painted as your solid gold.
I just think maybe if you don't use Hauser then in the starting rotation, maybe become a little bit too left-handed in your rotation. That would be my only worry if with Lucchesi, because then you'd have 3 of your 5 would be left-handed.
Manaea, Quintana, and
that's
then
rare.
Lucchesi.
Well, not that it can't work, but it's rare to see top heavy with the left-handed side as opposed to the right side.
We'll put it this way, and we both like Lucchesi. We've been very open about that. I think the number 5 starter, and let's be honest. Let's call what it is. The rotation, if that's what it is, it's meh. It is. We're not. It's not Scherzer, Verlander, DeGrom,
Yep.
And then we didn't get Yamamoto. Yeah, I know. I know. If you're listening on wherever you are, Bill just kind of did the man, those names, and then look at our rotation this year kind of thing.
Not the same. Not the same.
No, it's not, and you can't be oblivious or naive to it, and we're not. But
the
Hauser,
thing about those guys, though, those names, is those are competitors, though. Those aren't guys that you got to wonder who's going to show up competitiveness wise on a daily basis. They might have a rough outing or whatever it may be, but those guys are going to be out there busting their ass, not folding up like a chair if the shit hits the fan a little bit. So at least you can give those guys that they're gonna battle their ass off.
They are.
Are they the best? They're not the best, but they're not poor competitors either.
Right. And even just to put the bow on Hauser, Lucchesi, McGill, Budo. There will be
too. I mean, I'd like to see him. These are the types of moves and the types of things that, as a younger player, quote unquote, like Budo, these are the types of things that throw this added pressure on you every single time you go out there. That sometimes you're not going to get that same guy anymore because he feels the pressure. We can think Bader, we can think Vientos, same types of things where you feel like, man, you guys are looking to already replace me, and I did something last year, but you're looking to replace me. So these are the difficulties of not being that front line, top line guy where your name is already not penciled in, your name is penned in or typed in. These are the types of things that where you question, well, this guy sucks or this guy struggles because this guy is constantly pitching for whether he's going to be on the mound or not. Or this guy's standing in the batter's box, constantly feeling like if I don't get a fucking hit here, I'm out of here. So
you're absolutely and as a former player, that like when you're pitching for your life, for whatever time in your career, and a lot of
hard
players
enough to play.
Exactly. Yeah, I read off topic real quick. I read something about I think it was like the stadium. I don't know what it's called right now. They go through a crop load of names. Used to be
I go with the original usually
Jacobs Field, Progressive Park, whatever. But they said the point is it's so hard to get one at bat or throw one pitch in the majors that if you threw in the amount of Major League Baseballs and the Major League Baseball players and the history of life, you could not fill up that stadium. And it's like the capacity is 40,000.
Yeah.
And you would have empty seats everywhere.
15,000.
Yeah. So,
total play.
So I throw that out there because that you have a Budo, Lucchesi, who last year when the Mets were out of it and they got their chance, they made the most out of it, and now they're in it for this year. So it's a good thing, for them, and competition, like you always say, is always a good thing. So, plus, one last thing, and I'm trying to be optimistic here with this rotation. They're all on 1-year contracts, so they're pitching for a better contract. They want to be awesome. They want to have the best year of their life. Severino, Quintana's last year. Even Senga has an opt-out after 2025. Mets have nobody signed in the rotation after 2025. Senga,
with all that money out there, that's even more of an incentive.
Severino.
Unfortunately, they put that guy up there with the bat too. That's going to try to ruin your day too, though.
Yeah. I mean, so you can look at it that way. These guys are going to pitch regardless of what happens. Like their life depends on it, which it does. Severino has a lot to prove. High, low risk, high reward, 1-year deals, and if anyone's wondering why, and the Mets have the highest salary still in baseball, it is still number one. It's because of all the dead money that Steve Cohen is paying all these other guys, Scherzer, Verlander, McCann, to play for other teams. But it all goes away after this year. And with all these 1-year deals, their salary cap or their payroll, drops tremendously. And then you have the money, not that he doesn't have it now, but he's trying to build sustainable seasons, not like what he did the last 2 years. Take a stab at a Verlander or a Scherzer and go for it all.
Aging stars. Yep.
Right. So it's easy to figure it out. They're trying to be in contention because it's not that hard to make the playoffs, but they're also planning they're not rebuilding and they're not like anything. They're just not all in.
We're in a holding pattern. A little
Yeah,
bit.
right. With still trying to compete because
look, you said numerous times, 85 wins got
yeah,
the Diamondbacks to the World Series eventually.
yeah,
Obviously, they had to win a bunch of games in the playoffs and be hot at the right time, but be in contention for the playoffs, and then you never know what happens. So
exactly.
I think they're there. I think that there's a lot of. I know we got to get into this a little bit later, just from knowing the questions that are going to be coming. So I'm gonna stop there and let you go ahead forward because we'll save that for later.
Yeah, you just got to be competitive and get to the trade deadline, make your decision there. We talked about it. Mets have an offense that if all these guys are healthy and play to the back of their baseball cards, and Marte seems to be healthy, he's playing in the Dominican League right now in winter ball.
Yeah, I don't think he was healthy at all last year.
He wasn't.
Not one. At one point in time, was he healthy?
They have their core offense. Alvarez is going to probably have a better year. McNeil will probably have a better year. Marte will be back.
Right.
Who knows? So we'll see what happens. But the Mets are not punting. They're not rebuilding. Perfect way, like you put it. They're in a holding pattern where they have a chance still this year, and they're waiting for.
And then you know what? You can see what happens
25.
come July. See where you're at in July.
Exactly.
And then are we going for it? Or are we holding pat?
Right. And then the beauty of that, and I wish it didn't come to this, but it is what it is. It's radical acceptance. If they're out of it, all these guys are on 1-year deals. They're gonna trade them. They're buy, and they're gonna get, whoever they get. So, a long way to go. Their roster is not finished. So we'll get the one other signing they made is something out of nowhere. Harrison Bader, outfielder. Cardinals, most of his career, traded to the Yankees and then traded to the Reds. Just signed a 1-year contract, again, 1 year, $10.5 million. Best friends with Pete Alonso, who played with Bader at the University of Florida, a Gators. And I don't want to go into full details. Pete and I did talk about Bader. And Pete told me this. I'll give you this. He will be. He made a call. He will be having his locker next to his best friend Bader, and McNeil will be to his right, Bader to his left. And he was, it's going to be a shit show because all three guys are characters. But and I laughed. But he told me this. This is more important. If you have a healthy Nimmo, Bader in center, Nimmo in left, and Nimmo still will play center. Bader's not going to play every day. Plus, he's never healthy. But if you have a healthy Nimmo, Bader, and Marte, and this is from Pete's mouth, and you can understand anybody, he said a ball would not drop in Yellowstone Park with those three guys. Their outfield defense would be, on paper right now, amazing. Bader is a 99% elite defender. His bugaboo, he can't stay healthy, and he can't really hit all that well. But as Pete told me, he's been on the phone with Bader all offseason, giving him tips and little things to try. Obviously, anyone's going to take advice from Pete Alonso, So I don't mind having a Bader defensively. You know who he reminds me of? Juan Lagares. Gold Glove center fielder, didn't really hit all that much. Now, grant you, Bader. I don't know if you've seen highlights of Bader or seen him play. I'm sure you have. Bader is Kevin Kiermaier is number 1 defensively outfielder. Bader's 2. And if you've watched Bader, amazing. Just an amazing outfielder. And he'll save runs, in the defensive way. What's your take on the Bader signing? A lot of moving parts in the middle of the left, but I don't mind it. 1-year deal, I can't be mad. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need some outfield depth at all times. Obviously, they went through some injuries last year too, with Marte not being healthy. You never know, so you do need some backup. And it's nice to know that you have big league backup, and you're not trying to work in somebody that hasn't played at the major league level much. Obviously, Bader has played at the major league level. He will run through a wall to go get a ball. He probably ends up injuring himself sometimes for the aggressiveness that he uses out there. I do like the familiarity with Pete being the face of the team and bringing in a free agent like Bader, and it will help him integrate himself in with the team. And
Absolutely.
I think maybe it'll help him be a little bit more relaxed at the plate, and maybe he can show some of his potential as a hitter with the Mets that he hasn't been able to show. Because I know when he first got traded over to the Yankees and then come the playoff time, man, he was hitting a home run every other day, it seemed like, there for a minute. So it's definitely there.
Yeah.
You just need to have a sustained health to get you those at-bats, because hitting is the hardest thing to do in all sports. So when you do deal with injury and you're not consistently out there, it makes it even that much harder for you to be able to hit. So maybe with some health, he can be not just a defensive player, but help offensively as well.
I think Bader, yeah, he was. He was in the trade with the Cardinals, or the
With
Yankees.
Montgomery, right?
Well, Montgomery, yeah.
Yep.
So Bader is a veteran. He just gets hurt
been
every
around.
year. Yeah, he's been around. He can't stay
And
healthy.
he's a New York
but,
guy, right? He's a New York
yeah,
guy.
he.
Right,
I don't think Pete's going to be mad if I tell this quick story because it's funny. They're very close, and Bader's from New York. The funny part, Pete was telling me this, and this is not flexing or bragging. It's just I had a conversation with Pete Alonso. Bader would always say he's from the Bronx, and Pete would be like, "What? You're from Bronxville, buddy. You're from your dad's a lawyer. Bronxville was in Westchester. You're from an affluent neighborhood in Westchester." And nope, he'd be like, "I'm from the Bronx." And I was kidding.
I was better.
Yeah, I was like, with a name like Harrison, and Harrison had that flow with the hair before he had to cut it, when he went to the Yankees. Like, guys will be guys. They're just getting on each other.
That's it. Absolutely.
So I think it will help that they're close, and, it can only help. So
I agree.
if he could stay healthy, I don't mind it. I really don't. So Nimmo won't be your left fielder. He will play there more, but depth in the outfield, depth with pitching, it can't hurt.
Well, it keeps McNeil maybe a little bit more
second base.
Right. We can glue him into a position, which makes it easier for you to hit when you're not worrying about the different spins on balls on a nightly basis and where I'm standing. And believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy, but it will help him relax his mind when it comes to his approach at the plate too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you're playing every day, which Jeff does,
and you know where you're going to be,
but you don't know where you're playing.
Right.
Maybe. Right. So everyone should.
It could get frustrating. That. Obviously he's going to go out there and do whatever he has to do.
He's got all the gloves ready to go. He's an above average.
But it's just one less thing to worry about on a daily basis.
Yeah. Listen, I have a lot of notes to talk to you about, but we're going to bypass a couple of them. Mm-hmm. But I'll just sum up all the notes in this. The Mets still have to get 2 relievers. They have to make a decision on their DH. They're whether their rotation's done or not, it probably is. Let's say it is. Their offense, other than DH, is basically done as well. If they can get, and I don't know how, and my guess, and I'll ask you, as of right now, I do think Vientos will be the starting DH, and this is a prove me year for him. I think Vientos so far has been an AAA player. Too good for AAA, not as good for Major League pitching.
4A players so far. Yeah,
exactly. They had 2 quality relievers to bridge with Raley and Drew Smith. Diaz is coming back. They're in contention to win 85 games if everything goes right. Not saying it all will, because it never does. But they're not far off. The only hesitancy I have over all of this is that the DHs that are still out there, Jorge Soler, JD Martinez, and Justin Turner, why in the hell, and you tell me, would they want to come to the Mets when they're older and they want to win? Because the Mets are not putting out a clear-cut winner, So my guess is Vientos your DH. Prove me wrong, guys, but, there's still plenty of DHs available. But the Mets are not that far away from at least having a chance, even with their Met rotation,
Yeah, having a chance to qualify for the playoffs, possibly, yes. I mean, there's still a lot of good teams out there that haven't changed much in the past year, and 3 of them were in the National League East just this past year. Just to do it real quick, I wouldn't mind Soler on a brief deal. I wouldn't mind him over the 2 older guys. Look, if you got the 2 older guys, at least you know what you're getting. Kind of, you hope they don't, like we've talked about before, where the downturn where it could be one-off season and then it's just not the same guy. I've said it before. Vientos, not a fan of young players being DHs. They need to be out on the field so they can pay attention on both sides of the ball. Has not proven yet that he belongs. Bader at third base, I'm hoping that with Chavez being the hitting coach, they get him back to hit the ball the other way, and then maybe Vientos can log into the DH. But like I said, I wouldn't mind Soler on a short deal.
I agree. And he would make the most sense because JD Martinez wants to play for a winner. That's why he signed with the Dodgers last year on a 1-year contract.
Right.
And I would think Turner, who's 40, would do the same thing. Winner.
Right. And Soler's younger to the three of those guys.
Right. And he just
and why not?
Soler,
why not? It's New York. Why not New York? I mean, it's still New York.
Give him a 3-year contract with an opt-out after 2. Just that was the contract he had with the Marlins. He's younger. Right. Pay him what he wants. Give him that same deal, and put him at DH, and he could play the outfield.
And he has times where you can put the team on his back. You know,
he's a power hitter.
He's a monster, an absolute monster.
I agree.
And that's a little bit. That could be some protection for Pete. You know, some power protection for Pete, which is obviously big. The guys that hit before you and after you has a lot to do with the type of hitter that you are.
You don't have to tell me twice. Huge Mike Piazza fan. Edgardo Alfonso made him helped him as much as he could, protecting him.
Yep.
So there's still a lot to be. It's not many things, but they're big things. They're like the next moves that they make are gonna basically tell us finally.
I would take Robertson and Neres. Both of those guys too.
I had all this written down, and I wanted to go through all of it. We can't for time's sake.
I like Neres. Neres.
Neres is available. Robertson is available. Wandy Peralta from the Yankees is available. Suter is getting a lot of heat. He's a pitcher from the Rockies who's available. Had a great year. They have some thinking to do. They're not far off from at least being in contention. So we'll see what happens. Right, for the playoffs.
Finish your sentence.
You know how I stand, Bill, and I said it last year. Get in, get hot, stay healthy. You can go far.
Lose to the Rangers in the series. The best team's still going to win. The best team's still going to win when it boils down to it. In contention for the playoffs, I'll agree with you. In contention, I can't agree with that yet.
I think every Met fan would sign up for that, getting to a World Series right now from what we know.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'm saying contending for the playoffs possibly. That's as far as I'm going right now.
You're going ahead of me. I'm saying I just want meaningful baseball, in September, unlike last year.
Well, yes, that would be nice.
And we would know that before. We would know that before anyway with the trade deadline on August 1st. So
Yep.
We could talk about this until for all day, but we got to get to the mailbag, buddy.
Let's do it.
So we're going to read some questions, and without further ado, we're going to start with your buddy. He's back for more as he's here every podcast, and I would be remiss if I didn't say every podcast we do on Shay Hello, Shay_Hello, we put out. Write your questions to Bill and I. We will read them live on the podcast, and that's exactly what we do every podcast. And we're going to do it right now. So we're going to start with your buddy NYMGI, and he asks, I'll leave this to you, and I'll answer it real quick as well. If Burns, Wheeler, Fried, Bieber, and Bueller, God, that's a lot of B's, man, all make it to free agency, who would be your top target?
I would love to say Wheeler. I don't think he would come back, and he is getting a little bit older. I would go with, and I know it sounds crazy because Bueller's had numerous Tommy Johns now, but the surgery seems so much even more advanced than when I had it and guys were coming back. I would probably lean towards Bueller and Fried if it came down to it of those names. I think Burns is probably on the decline a little bit. Wheeler's getting a little bit older, probably has a little bit of a bad taste in his mouth with the Mets, although it is a new regime here. Bieber's getting a little bit older. I would say Fried and Bueller would be where I would lean.
Okay. New regime makes everything different. Zach Wheeler is getting older. He's coming off of a 5-year deal with the Phillies. He pitched great. Runner-up in a Cy Young. He's been top 5 pitcher every year for the Phillies. Mets, Brody Van Wagenen didn't want to sign him. He said, we're not going to pay this man $100 million for 2
I would love to
2 good second halves. Well, Brody Van Wagenen, F off, you were wrong.
Yes.
So, to answer this question, I would say Zach Wheeler still. He's had 2 Tommy Johns.
Yeah.
I think he's got some gas left in that tank. 33, 34 years old, I get it. New regime doesn't have to do with the Wilpons. But here's the thing. I don't think Zach Wheeler's leaving the Phillies.
Yeah, so, I think the guys are digging the vibe there a little bit.
They'll do the same thing.
I don't know to me, with him, it also is going to be like, is he going to want that contract that gets him into the 42-year-old range? Because the guys like Scherzer and guys like Verlander that have now shown that that's a thing again. I could see him asking for a lot of years, possibly.
Yeah, I don't see him getting that because he's already on the older side, But
I didn't
you
see
know what?
$780 million going to
Yeah,
Otani.
I mean,
Either,
I say that, but and then I read that the Dodgers have spent as much money as one team as the rest of the
As the rest
29
of the
other
league has,
teams.
right? So
Yeah,
who
so
knows?
everything goes.
Yeah,
Great
anything
question.
goes at this point.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'd go Wheeler, you go Bueller or Fried. You can't go wrong with any of them.
I would take Wheeler for sure. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah,
just don't know if
and
it's a possibility.
and one other thing, Burns, he mentions there, Burns is a free agent after this year. Trade for the guy, have that window like the Dodgers had with Glass now, and see if you can extend him. He was on the Brewers with Stearns. He's not going back to Milwaukee.
Yeah, I would think I would wonder because of the arbitration situation last year how much Stearns was involved with that thing because Burns was
Right, I
not
know.
happy.
No, that's why Burns is gone. But I don't. You're right. I don't know how much Stearns was involved, but you would think a lot.
I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. We got to get to some others. This is from Steve, NYFD NY7. Hey guys, tough one here. If you had to choose the amount of wins in 2024 and if they make the playoffs, what would it be? Yes, I know the roster isn't complete. Love the pod! Exclamation point. Thank you, sir. I'll take that one first. I'll make it real quick.
Yep.
Yes, the roster is not complete. We just went into what will make it complete. If it goes two ways, if they get a Soler for DH and they get the relievers we were talking about, I will say the Mets will win 85 games at least. I will. If they stick with Vientos starting at DH and they get a couple of relievers that are just, whatever, they're going to be another 75 win team like last year at best. So we're incomplete. The puzzle isn't finished, but, that's where I would go right now. You?
I think that you couldn't damn near took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say if they can complete the roster, I don't even need to repeat it. 85 wins if we can complete the roster with some nice signings in contention. A lot of teams ahead of them still. Like we said, 3 teams from the National League East made the playoffs last year, and obviously the Diamondbacks. They haven't changed much. The teams haven't changed. If anything, they might have gotten a little bit better. So there's some signings that need to be made, but I'm going to think positive. We're going to say hopefully for an 85 wins is realistic with a couple of other signings. It's going to be a battle.
Yep. Thank you for the question, Steve. We're going to move on. Jeff Cohen, who's a regular on our podcast, he has his own podcast, Baseball and Barbecue. If you're a fan of baseball or barbecue, check it out. He's got some great guests on his podcast, and he's a great guy. Check it out. Jeff's question is one for you, one for me. We'll start with the question to you. He writes, Bill, what was your routine between starts, and does the starting staff follow the same routine, or does it vary by pitcher? And what is the routine for relievers? So you got a little 3-parter there.
Yeah. I took some time to write down a little bit of notes and just go through it again. Obviously, the day you start is your pitching day. Usually after you pitch, there are actually a little bit of shoulder exercises that go on after you get out of the game where they call them burnouts, where you're just doing some shoulder exercises just to totally extinguish the muscles completely. The next day would start with a nice long run. You get out there at least 20 minutes to run all the bad blood out. Nice soft long toss, actually getting it out to 100, 125, 130 feet. It hurts like hell. You can't stand doing it, but you kind of got to do it to get started going again. Then you're back into your shoulder and your forearm exercises. They used to be manuals. I asked some of the guys when I was down in fantasy camp, some of the trainers, if manuals is still a thing, and it is still a thing. Everybody doesn't do them. They do them different ways. But manual exercises is where you actually work with the trainer and they're manipulating your arm in different resistance exercises. And then a nice heavy workout, that's where you get your heavy day of lifting weights and leg workout, upper body workout. The following day would be a light workout after you throw your bullpen. So that's your bullpen day. Bullpen is usually consists of about 15 to 17 minutes of throwing, and that includes starting to play catch to going and throwing your bullpen. The following day will be a long toss day with running poles. Poles are where you run from one foul pole to the next foul pole, probably about 16 of those, plus some nice hard sprints. Shoulder and forearm exercises again that day, lightly. then that will bring you to your day before your start. And that would be a nice light catch with some 3/4 speed sprints. And that's about it. There would even be sometimes maybe later in the season where you say, you know what, I'm not even going to play catch today. But for me personally, I did like to have the feel of the ball in my hand the day before I pitched just a little bit. As for most guys follow something close to that. Obviously, guys have their own little certain things. One thing would be a shorter bullpen on the second day and then a light bullpen on the third day. As far as bullpen guys go, you have to be ready on a daily basis. You probably have your light little workouts that you like to do on a daily basis, whether that be your shoulder exercises, your forearm exercises, a light leg workout. That would usually tend to be after a game. Playing catch, you have your throwing routine that you do every single day, and it's basically the same thing. The days that you know what, I'm cashed, I'm done, I'm down today, I've thrown 2 or 3 nights in a row. You might go in after the game, and get bust your ass real quick and get a nice heavy workout in, knowing that you got a full day of recovery. That's my answer.
I like it. Yeah, well, that's a very detailed, perfect answer.
Thank you.
Great question and great answer. A lot of players, obviously, I would think vary, but you nailed it, man. I'm sure there are a lot of listeners who are always wondering how that goes, and that was as good of a
You don't sit around and eat popcorn and pizza right. in between starts. Yeah. You do, but not the only thing.
And from what you're telling me, at least your routine sounds like a lot of running.
Yeah, it used to be. I don't think they run as much as they used to anymore. I don't get it. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about injuries, and injuries are higher than they've ever been. Well, maybe these guys need to start running a little bit more again. I don't know.
Keep yourself in shape, and I feel it could trickle down from there.
Yeah.
But
there was a lot of running involved. Yes, I wasn't always a big, huge guy. I used to be a little leaner, as everyone I'm sure is aware of.
He's got one more question for me. I'll answer this real quick. Casey, how satisfied or not satisfied are you about this offseason? Jeff, come on. I am not satisfied. The end. Next question. Thanks for the question, Jeff. Both questions. Not satisfied at all, of course. We got a question from Mark Digman. He writes, what do you think the single most important factor was the Mets missing out on Ohtani and Yamamoto? We have discussed this.
Neither one of them wanted to be Mets.
Done. Yeah. I mean, we've discussed this at length. Mark, if you haven't listened to the podcast before, Bill nailed it. It's literally what Bill just said. They had no interest of coming to the Mets. Yeah.
Which is a shame. It's really a shame.
It is.
Because this is the thing for me. And when the Mets are winning and the Mets are in contention in World Series, baseball is better. And and New York itself, when the Mets are winning as opposed to the Yankees are winning, the Mets is a bigger story and a bigger push when the Mets are winning as opposed to when the Yankees are winning. And prove me wrong, but it is. And it is. I don't understand why people maybe these guys don't understand what that really is, because they're younger, and coming from another country. But I don't understand why you wouldn't want to be interested, but I don't think they were interested.
Yeah, no, they were definitely not.
For not wanting to play in LA too. I mean, that's hey.
Yeah.
Right on the Pacific.
They're both from Japan,
exactly,
and they got their money. Can't fault them. But to answer the question, they wanted no part of any other team. And even Yamamoto said if Ohtani didn't sign with the Dodgers, he still would have. Right. So he used everybody else to get blah blah blah. But there's your answer. He didn't want to be.
I still want to see him get some outs. I'll believe it when I see it.
I know. Bill's very adamant about with Yamamoto. Show me. We know what you can do in Japan. You got paid. Get some outs. I get it. I'm with you. Last question. We got time for one more. We'll move on to quick pitches after this one. Another one who's familiar with our podcast. He writes frequently. Jimmy Lags. This one's for you, Bill.
Okay.
Bill, do you think lefty pitchers have an advantage against lefty hitters? As time has gone on, we have seen a lot of splits lately, reverse splits, which is a righty getting lefties out, and it's usually not like that, or lefties getting righties out, right? So I'll repeat the question. Do you think lefties pitchers have an advantage against lefty hitters? Because as time's gone on, we've seen the reverse splits.
Yeah, I think that certain left-handed pitchers will have an advantage on those left-handed hitters. And I think those are the guys that have devastating breaking balls. The guys that are more changeup oriented, I think the advantage goes away a little bit because you usually learn the changeup as a left-handed pitcher to try to combat the right-handed hitter. Yep. And the majority of guys that come up through amateur baseball into college baseball or directly into pro baseball, they're pretty goddamn good, right? And
yeah, of course.
They don't worry so much about who's hitting on either side. And I know me personally, when I came to the minor leagues, they would take the lefties out of the lineup. So then you don't come up being a lefty specialist. You come up being a starter, and then eventually through time you turn into a relief pitcher. There's not many guys that are coming up as relief pitchers in amateur baseball or college baseball, maybe a little bit more than now. But I think it's kind of evened out a little bit now because as a left-handed pitcher, I've got to be able to get righties out. So if they're taking the lefties out to face you when you're younger, and then you get to the big leagues, and now, hey, man, by the way, you're getting lefties out. You never even learned how to face lefties, really, because you didn't face many of them. Yeah. There's so few left-handed hitters. So I think that it's evened out a little bit just due on the fact that lefties don't see enough left-handed pitchers to really know how to combat them.
Yeah, no, and from what you said in the beginning about a righty having a curveball to offset a left-handed hitter, a righty pitcher, the first person that I thought of, just because he's relevant in my head right now, David Robertson. He's a right-handed pitcher and had much more success against left-handed hitters. Right. Makes no sense, but you just nailed it again. Why? He's got a devastating curveball.
Yep.
So you're backing it up. So good answer. I agree. And good question, Jimmy. Very good. Thank you to everybody who wrote in for the mailbag. Again, if you want to be a part of next episode 22, usually like over the weekend, Shay_Low will send out, write the questions you want and we'll read them live on the air like we just did. Thank you everybody who chimed in. Thanks for the great answers by Bill this week with them. And we'll see you next week with the mailbag. We got to move on, Bill. It's quick pitch time.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Number one, and by the way, I got to always say, quick pitches, if you're new to the podcast, 3 questions for Bill. Doesn't have to be baseball related. He doesn't know what's coming. And we're just going to go. Ready?
Ready.
Bill, what is something that makes you feel unstoppable?
Something that makes today, nowadays?
In life, maybe, I
am going to sleep right now. I'm unstoppable. You can't stop me from going to sleep. Not right this moment, but when I'm going to sleep, you can't stop me. Other than that,
got it.
I've been humbled so many damn times. I don't think anything other than I'm going to sleep maybe makes me feel unstoppable.
Right. So when you decide it's time to go to sleep, you're unstoppable.
I'm going to bed.
Got it. That's a good answer. Okay. No one can talk you out of it. Just leave me alone. You have no chance. Yeah, got it.
I'm done.
All right. Number 2. What is the weirdest thing in your home?
Me.
That's such a good answer.
I
love it. I wasn't
nothing weirder than me.
God, I look back on it now. That's a layup question.
Yep,
yeah. I really thought it was a good question, but now your answer makes me feel like an idiot. That was such a layup question.
There's no reason to know.
It's such I was thinking, Bill's going to be like, the 120 goldfish I randomly have, in my son's bedroom or something. Like,
me.
No,
I'm enough.
It's Bill. Bill's a weirdo, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn. All right. Sometimes I got good ones and sometimes I'm not
on my game. That
was a layup for you, buddy.
All right.
Good answer. Let's see if number 3 can make up for it. It's not. It's just, it's a normal. I was being nice this week.
Well, your peanut butter and jelly got blown out of the water, huh?
Yeah, I saw that a couple hours ago.
Did you see my response?
You're a big peanut butter and jelly guy.
Well, I was going to get I was actually looking at marmalade yesterday to try to change it up a little bit. A little orange marmalade.
That's big news. But
I might do it.
If you follow Bill on X, he made it known that he's a big peanut butter and jelly guy.
I still eat.
Of course, who doesn't? It never goes out of style, right?
I played minor league baseball for a long time too. I had a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, and I'm sure you loved it too. How could you not?
That's what it is, man.
You probably, tell me if I'm wrong, you probably had like 2 or 3 or 4 sandwiches. It wasn't just one, right?
Well, it could be 2, that's for sure. And I had one. I just had one 2 nights ago, right before I was unstoppable.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Unstoppable. I like it.
Yep.
All right, this is another layup question, but it's more of just we'll just go with it.
Okay.
Where's the fanciest place you've ever been to in your life? Now, it doesn't have to be a country or a vacation spot. It could just be a spot, restaurant. I don't care. Anywhere.
I went when I was in Vegas, and I don't know. I've been to quite a few quote unquote fancy places. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
But
a quote unquote fancy.
I went to the only Michelin star Chinese restaurant in the United States when I was at the Wynn Resort in Las Vegas just 3 weeks ago. That was pretty fancy.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds expensive because the Wynn Resort.
Well, the price was right for me. Let's just put it that way.
Right. I mean, when you say Wynn Resort, I just think top of the line.
It's a top notch resort. It's pretty cool. And I was lucky to have someone take me out there and pay my expenses, which I think John Finn, who's a Mets fantasy camp guy, I couldn't thank him more for the experience and the trip that he took me on.
That's awesome. I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad you went there. That's definitely a fancy place. You had me at the Wynn Hotel, and then the Michelin.
One Michelin star, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a good answer. That takes the cake. That's going to wrap up Quick Pitches, and that's going to wrap up episode number 21, which was Bill Pulsipher's number while wearing that for the Mets. So,
and a great episode too with Lucy's story and the Alonso connection, and I thought it was a great show today.
Yeah. I want to thank Steve, our producer behind the scenes. This episode, like always, is brought to you by roots-recordings.com. Follow us, please. Subscribe on Say Hello Media on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We're everywhere on podcast platforms, whether Google, Spotify, Amazon Fire, I'm seeing TV. People are listening to us. Nice. Of course, Apple. Follow us. Send us a comment. Jeff Cohen actually writes us a lot of comments on our YouTube channel, Say Hello Media. We always get back to him. He's got, he listens to the podcasts and, he has some questions or he has his thoughts. So I recommend follow Jeff Cohen's steps. It's great. So with that being said, any last words, Bill?
Just congratulations again on the new pup, and I know she's going to be awesome. I'm happy for you, and I'm glad you took the advice that some of us gave you. I'm very happy, and I'm glad you're going to be happy too. It's going to make you happy.
I appreciate that, Bill. You did have a lot to do with that decision, with your words, and here we are. I have Lucy. Awesome. We're going to end this podcast in a minute, and
I look forward to meeting her.
Yeah. Oh, she's a love bug. She is just a sweetie.
My wife's jealous because she loves the labs. We have a lab that we had rescued from Alabama years and years and years ago. She's 14 now.
Lucky doggy. Yeah.
We got some older dogs. It's going to be rough. But again, like I said,
I know.
There's always dogs out there that need to be rescued, and we are a family that rescues dogs.
And you guys should be applauded for that.
Thank you.
So, thank you everybody for writing in. Thank you everybody for listening and watching. And we had a blast, another great episode. And I want to wish you to be safe out there and also have a great rest of your day. That will conclude episode number 21 of the Say Hello podcast.